back to the Childhood Cancer Perspective, and thank you all for sticking with me through all these episodes as I detail our journey with our daughter, JC, who was diagnosed with a very rare form of brain cancer in 2020. In the past year, I created this podcast as a way to tell my story from a father's perspective, but also my wife and my other two children to give an insight to childhood cancer that maybe you don't see through commercials and TV. And in 2021, when our daughter passed on July 3rd of 2021, in that year was the very first year that we ever attended Curefest. And we weren't sure if it was something that we wanted to do because we weren't sure if it was mentally and emotionally something we could handle. However, it became the best thing that we ever did because of the amazing people and surroundings we were in. So today, my guest is Dena Sherwood, who's the president and founder of Arms Wide Open Childhood Cancer Foundation, but also kind of the driving force behind why Curefest is so amazing every single year. So I'm so excited to have you on the show today, and thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And funny, as you were starting that introduction, I was wondering what you were going to say, if you decided to go that first year, and if it was something that you felt welcomed at and you felt was beneficial, because that is so important to me. So I'm glad to hear that you did.
Yeah, it was something that we kind of wrestled with, and we weren't sure if we were going to do it. We didn't even know about it, and we got to that point and said, you know what, we're going to do this. And we even put a table up that year for our organization too. Like, we wanted to meet people, we wanted to be around people that understood us, because you spend so much time in this community really trying to get people to understand and listen for awareness. But at this point, you're in a group of thousands and thousands of people that know how you feel, that know your emotions, and you can speak to them without having to really explain yourself every single time you talk. So that is one of the most amazing things I say that we always taken away from Curefest. And we appreciate everything that you do. And this is really the first time we've ever had a chance to speak, even, and I know that you're running around crazy at that event every year, and stopping for a second really isn't an option.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm so glad to hear you say that. And, we have come a long way since the first Curefest, and we have built out so many different components to it. And one that is very important to me is the bereavement component, because, I've been in this community now for the last 16 years. And although my son is a survivor, many of my friends' children have not had that same outcome. So my heart, from the very beginning, has been so heavy for, families like yours and that children do not make it. And we've added so much to Curefest to make sure that you feel welcome and that you feel heard and that you feel seen, and that, you can share your child's name and your child's story and have a community base with other people that understand. So, but that really has been a huge goal for me through Curefest to, make sure that everyone, no matter where they are in the fight, has a place and feels a sense of community and belonging. So to hear you say that means a lot to me, because that is really, that was the main goal of Curefest, is to unify the childhood cancer community so we could speak as one voice, no matter where we are, in our journey, in our cancer journey. And, like I said, that makes me, thankful that you feel that way. And I hope that anyone else that might be on the fence would know that, that it's a place of acceptance, a place of love, a place of comfort, a place of encouragement. That's what I really want it to be for the whole entire community, and for everyone to know that there is a place for them there, no matter if you're a parent, sibling, survivor, grandparent, whatever it may be, or an advocate who really, doesn't have a connection, a personal connection. There really is a space for everyone. So again, to hear you say that you felt that and that you were happy that you made the decision, it seems like I'm glad. I'm glad, and I'm very thankful to be here today. And thank you for having this podcast and really sharing people's voices. And and thank you for having me on today. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's absolutely my pleasure. And I know that with Curefest, every single year when we sit out, we sit at the Freedom Plaza and we're sitting there listening to the speeches. And I always in my head am wondering, what would I say if I was up there? What would I say to motivate people? What would I say to kind of embrace our daughter's story and share her legacy with everybody? And in my mind, one day I'll figure that out. What would I say? But I know that I come away from that event every single year so energized and ready to just take a running start at this the next year, to take a running start and make a difference either in legislation or in my community or with our organization. It just always empowers me. And I'm almost thankful every single year that it's in the nighttime so you can't see us all crying and being, but at the same time, like, and this year the rain covered that up a little bit, but it truly is inspiring to be there every year. And I had the honor this past week to speak to Dean Crow, and then I also spoke to Ava Sunflower, and to get their insight on what it means to them and see it from their perspective. And it lines up so much with how we feel as a family. And I love that, because you're sharing your stories, and yes, it is sad, and that crowd of people that are down there holding the candles is getting bigger every year, and it's internally it's frustrating, but I'm also very, very hopeful. And when I hear like Dean come out when she's talking about the legislation and the money that they've raised, and you hear about things that are passing and new types of treatments, and so it's definitely hopeful. Sometimes it's a little bit bittersweet for families like us, yes, but I love to hear that there's advancements happening. And this is, without this community coming together every year, I just don't think that we would have that much success. So that is just a testament to how well it's run and how many amazing people are out there. And I'm just trying to meet and talk to all of them, because it just is so incredible and inspiring.
That's so awesome. And, I feel the same way every year. I do. It's a lot of work, and a lot of work goes into it. And it's, year round work, so we're working on Curefest the day after Curefest. We're working on the Curefest of the following year. Like that's how much work goes into it. But I feel the same every year. By the time I get to Curefest, I'm pretty tired, right? And I know I have a full week ahead of me, and I'm just praying that everything works out and everybody is, everybody's needs are met, and everybody comes away from the weekend, full and encouraged and empowered, and feeling, you know, the unity in the community. But every year when it ends, on Sunday afternoon, I, although I'm tired, I'm encouraged and empowered. And I feel the same way as you, that, it gives me the, I guess, I don't know what, it gives me the reason every year of why I do it, because it is a ton of work, and it is exhausting. But what all of the good that comes from it can't even be like put into words. So at the end of the weekend, although I'm wiped out, I'm driving home literally like praising God and just like thanking him, for the weekend, and for, just the goodness of it and all of the great that has come out of it, no matter if it's, friendships that are made, or someone saying their child's name, or, people working together, like you said, for, the good of and the betterment of the community. There just are so many good things that come out of the weekend, so many beautiful things that, you never even expect. And then it happens, and, it makes it all worth it. And it makes it like, I can't wait until next year. Like, this is great. Like, we're going to add this, we're going to do that. Like, how else can we, how can we make this better? How can we, do more? And it's just so beautiful too to have other organizations and foundations come alongside of us, because obviously, it is a huge undertaking, a multi-day event. But when you have other foundations that come alongside of you who care just as much as you do about the entire community, and are not only looking and focusing on their own foundation, it just makes such a world of difference. I think of the Raleigh Foundation as one. I think of One Voice Foundation, Marianne Masolio as one, who have been like such amazing partners, and really like coming alongside of us with, volunteers, and, programming and all, and really caring so much as we do, to want to serve the entire cancer community. Like, that has been a blessing too. Yeah, so I feel the same as you. And as far as the night, and the night of golden lights, and it is heartbreaking, but it also is, it is encouraging, I think, because we are making a difference, and a lot has changed. Like I said, I've been in this, you know in this community for 16 years now, and I've seen so much change, and I've seen so many good things happen. And of course, I know, you know, for every family, we get the statistics, when our kids are first diagnosed, right? My son had a 30% chance of survival, and he is a survivor today. But you don't care, it's 0 or 100 for you, right? You're focusing on your one child. The statistics don't matter, right? It's either your child lives or your child dies. So it's like, okay, they could have told me 30, they could have told me 10, they could have told me 90, you know, it's either 0 or 100, right? So, I feel like coming together and supporting each other, knowing what we know is so important, and that night, although it is heartbreaking, by coming together and by speaking together as one voice, myself, who, is a survivor, you as a bereaved dad, I mean, to bring our stories together and to amplify them there, in our nation's capital together, giving the different perspectives, I feel like it has so much power and it holds so much weight and is so important, to do. And difference is being made. A lot of people will say, oh, there's been no change. But I mean, I don't know if they haven't been in the community long enough or if they just don't know, but there has been a ton of change, and do we need to do more? 100%. That's why I'm still in this. I didn't walk away, after my son was 5 years cancer free, because I always say, no matter if your child survives or dies, your family is affected by childhood cancer for the rest of your life. Like, I live with it every single day. There's not a day that goes by that it's not with me and not with my family and not in the back of our minds, and sometimes in the forefront of our minds, depending on the day that it is, So, yeah, I feel like a lot has changed. A lot has changed, but it's not enough, of course, as I said. And that's why we continue the fight, because I will continue this until my last breath and or until every child has the outcome as my son Billy, because it's just too much. It's too much. And it is heartbreaking and it is devastating for sure. But I think sometimes we forget, I feel like we've been through the worst thing possible in our lives, right? You especially, right? And you are here, right? You've made it. You are making it every single day. And it's a choice that you have to make every single day. And I know that because I have a lot of friends who are bereaved parents. I have more bereaved friends than survivor friends. So that's telling too, right? And you're doing it and you're getting up every day and you're making a difference in your daughter's honor and memory, and you're making positive impact and change, and you're choosing to engage, and you're choosing to help the people that come behind you. And that is something really to be commended for, because I know it's not easy and I know that it's difficult, and I know you will ache and miss your daughter every single day until your last breath. But I'm telling you, I'm here to help and I'm here to fight alongside of you in her honor and memory to make a difference, because as far as we've come, we have so much further to go. And you know I think that our community is so strong and has such heart that we do have the power to make a difference. And I see the difference being made because of who we are, because of what we really are, have overcome and are overcoming every single day. It's a lot. It's lit. And I mean, I'm preaching to the choir now, but it's a living hell. And, you know, if we have lived through that and we can still speak and smile and care for others, I think we've won, right?
Right. Yeah. No, it's the change is the biggest thing that I think is so bittersweet on our end. And I know that even the second year that we came to Curefest, we went to the Golden Toast dinner, and my wife doesn't get super emotional. Like, I'm the more emotional one in the relationship, and she doesn't really show it as much. And just being there and being around and actually hearing the talk about change and hearing about positive moves forward, it affected her in a way, because it's like, but it was too late for us. And I know that
Right.
that feeling comes across a lot. It's Obviously, we're here. We lost our daughter. There wasn't enough research, there wasn't enough funding, and there wasn't enough understanding to help her. And to see that coming forward, it's good. Like, I'm happy because I want to see more kids ring the bell. I want to see more kids become 5 years, 10 years, 20-year survivors and go on. And I've met some amazing kids that now are going to go into nursing and be doctors and stuff, or child life specialists, because they want to give back in a way that they can relate on a level that a lot of people can't. And I think it's so amazing. But it definitely is that change. We want to see it, but it is very hard and sometimes angering almost to see, well, this is moving forward for this type of cancer or this type of cancer. And then we look at it and say, but what about us? And why didn't it come forward first? Or why didn't this come, and there's no answer to that, right? There's no way to understand. And I know that there's progress. We're in Wisconsin. I had the opportunity last year to tour a lab at UW where they are studying right now neuroblastoma, and I got to see the lab where they're doing these tests and the results that they're coming up with. And I sat in on a meeting, and they're showing about the clinical trials that they're running, and it's really, really, really interesting and really encouraging because you're seeing actual progress happen and actual things. Because yes, on the outside looking in, or even parents that are going through it right now, you feel like there's nothing happening, like it's a stalemate, and we're waiting and waiting and waiting. And you see millions and millions of dollars that are donated to other types of cancers in adults, and the kids you don't even hear about. You really see one commercial on TV and you think that's where all your money's going because that's the only place we ever hear about it. But yet there's hundreds of organizations like yours and like One Voice or Chad Tuff and these type of things that are putting this money and effort into things. And you just don't hear about it as much because, let's be honest, the media doesn't want to talk about sick kids, and nobody really does, right? It's not a fun topic. And I've often said that I have got images and pictures that I can show of my daughter going through treatment and that I'm sure everybody does in this community, that will bring the strongest, toughest man to his knees because
So
it is
true.
harsh. It's not smiles and it's not laughter. It's really not. There's so much that happens through these treatments, and we know that progress has to make those better, those options better. One day I hope that we can cure this, and I hope that we can all just go out of business and not have to do this anymore. But until then, we have to find a way to make our kids kind of smile more. We have to give them those options so that they're not struggling so much to get sicker just to get better type of thing.
Right.
And and then talking about the side effects that you live with for life that these kids are going through, because the treatments often cause side effects that are even worse than the cancer itself,
Right.
that nobody really talks about either. And so there is a lot of progress that has been made, at least even in the time that, since our diagnosis in 2020. But at the same time, there's progress that seems to be going in the opposite direction, that we have to kind of right the ship. I know that in 2020, the big statistical number was 43 kids a day. Well, now it's 47 kids a day. So some numbers are going in the right direction, some are going in
Right.
the wrong direction. But working together, our organization, your organization, all of these, and Curefest is a great place. I hate to say networking because it just seems like a business, but
No,
yes,
but
it
it's
is.
great. Yeah. To bring people
I've
together. Yeah. Yeah.
I've met so many incredible people just through Curefest, to be able to speak to them and reach out and work with them through our business, but also work with them in the fight to make a difference in this world and through our daughter's name. And it's all because of that event really has brought us together, and I love it. And I think, to be honest with you, we could talk about Curefest for days and never get it all in.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
but I but I do love it.
It's really turned into something else, like from the beginning. I remember the first year, and I don't know, I want to say there's probably I don't know, less than 20 foundations, maybe. And now there's really, like, I don't know, probably over 250 represented. And it really, I think it has become like the centerpiece of the community, and the childhood cancer movement. And I don't take that lightly. And I'm just so thankful that, we are able to provide that, each year, with the help of the sponsors, that come alongside of us, because, it's just so important to me. And, you know, I really, I think, for Arms Wide Open, it's not only about Arms Wide Open. To me, I care about everyone. I care about every foundation, no matter how big, how small. I care about every single individual. And I just really want to serve as many people as I can and help as many people as I can. And I think, Curefest is basically, the result of that, and bringing people together in that way. And yeah, it blows me away every year, every year. And I'm just so thankful that we add things every year, and that there is something for everyone. Something else that you talked about just a minute ago was, like the childhood cancer survivors growing up and getting into the medical field. Well, Billy, my son, he's applying for college now, and he's actually going into nursing. That's what he's
Love it.
going to do. And he just wrote his college essay. And I wish I knew where it was, because I printed it. I was like, wow. Yeah. So he said, during the formative years of a child's life, when most kids are going on play dates and learning how to share and get along with their peers, I was learning much different lessons. I was learning endurance, patience, perseverance, humility, compassion, understanding, acceptance, gratitude, and resilience. I mean, you know, when I read that, obviously I cried, and I was like, wow, because he was in treatment. He was diagnosed July 6th, 2008. So he was in treatment from the time he was 13 months old, and he was in treatment for 3.5 years before he was declared no evidence of disease. And that, it was grueling. It was harsh. He had neuroblastoma. And then once he was declared no evidence of disease, we had to deal with, he had severe kyphosis and scoliosis. So his spine, he was basically a hunchback. But of course, they weren't touching that until they could make sure he was cancer free, right? And until they could get him to be cancer free. So once we did that, then we had to deal with the issues with the spine. So we were then continuing on that road, and that was another year. So really, from the time he was a year old until the time he was probably 5.5, he was in the hospital. He was in the hospital, and anything that could go wrong did go wrong. If there was a 1% chance, he was that 1%. So it was very, very difficult. And I was surprised, because that wasn't the path that he was choosing, and literally it was just last week. And he said, can I talk to you? Of course. We have a very strong bond, my family and I. There's four of us, me, my husband, my daughter Sydney, and Billy. And he's like, I'm thinking about changing, careers, and for college, like choosing a different path. And I'm like, that's fine. I said, well, I just want you to be happy. Like, whatever you will be happy doing. And he's like, yeah, I just feel like, I'm thinking about nursing. What do you think about that? And I was like, wow. I said, wow. I'm like, it's funny that you said that. I said, because, I was praying for him, the day before. I pray for my family every day, and, everyone else, but literally every morning. And I was like, asking God to guide him, because I know that, he's 17 now. And I was just asking him, can you, just give him the wisdom to choose the right path, and the path that you want him to be on. And he was like full force going straight ahead for this other path. And it was like the next day. And for some reason that morning when I was praying, like nursing popped into my head, but then I kind of pushed it out, because I was like, that's weird. Like, he never even brought that up. And P.S., the next day he said that to me, and I was like, I don't know. I was just like, so like, I was like, what? And I was like, wow. I said, no, I think that's great. I said, I can't believe you just said that, because mommy just, was praying about it yesterday and thought about that. And he was like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And I said, I think that's great. And he's like, yeah, I just feel like I've always been fascinated, through everything that I've been through. I've always been fascinated with the human body and science. And he has, like, since he was a little kid, I homeschooled him from K to eighth grade, because of all of, the issues, obviously he couldn't go to school for the first 6 years. So, and then we just followed suit after that. So he loved science. He was always like with science projects, and literally he could not get enough of science. And even now, he's loves science. So, he was like, I just feel like I'm really intrigued by the human body and how everything works. And, he's like, I know how much the nurses helped me and impacted me, and I want to do that for other people. And I was like, wow, because I know that it still impacts him. Something that people don't know, uh, and people don't realize about survivors, especially childhood cancer survivors, right? They're diagnosed when they're younger. So when they're younger and they're going through the treatments, they are not realizing how it's going to impact their life, right? Their adult life. So here's my son, embarking on adulthood at this point. He's 17, and now he's realizing, right? So I was proud of him, honestly, to make that decision, because I don't know if I would have made that decision. I don't know if I were in his shoes, like if I would want to like kind of just leave the past behind and move on and go into something else. And, that was just very telling, you know, for me about him and the compassion in his heart to want to stay in that. I was like, wow. So yeah, so he's applying actually this week. He's doing an early decision, and the deadline is the 15th. So he's working on getting all that together, and that's his goal. His goal is to go into the nursing program. So it's funny that you mentioned that, because literally that's what's going on over here this week.
Yeah, I love that, and that's like I said, I've heard it multiple times from guests, and even and one mother actually that's going back to school to be a nurse because with her going through with her son, and I love it because like I said, you're going to be able to relate on such an intimate level with these families, and you're able to give back in such a way that a lot of people can't, and to choose to work either in nursing, but to choose to work with kids, it's a special kind of people.
Right.
And I honestly don't know how they do it. Our youngest daughter, our 16-year-old, she is going to be going into child life because of what she watched her sister go through.
Wow.
And that's something that's just incredible to me to watch. And our oldest is in college right now. She's in her first semester and she's doing business, but also she was working on psychology. And it's like to watch them go through that and use what their life has given them as a motivation to do certain things and then to give back in that way, because everybody, yeah, you have kind of two different ways, either whether your child is still fighting, whether they've survived or whether they passed. And the same with the actual warriors, you go one of two ways. Once things are kind of done, you either fade into the background and forget it all or try to block it out, or you embrace it and try to move forward with it. And neither way is wrong, but there's just kind of two different separate roads. So I love to hear that more and more kids, and that's another thing about coming in September every year, is watching the kids that are go through it are now up on stage, are now the ones that are creating organizations, are now they're advocates, and they're using their experiences to really kind of help relate to people and make a difference. And it truly is inspiring. So I love hearing that. I love hearing, obviously, the survivorship. I know for a long time after our daughter passed, people would kind of shy away from telling us or sharing their successes with us because they
Yeah.
didn't know how we'd react. And I said, I understand that and I respect that, but I want to see those successes. I want to see your kids ringing the bell. I want to see them moving forward, and I want to see that positiveness in coming out of you. I want to see that. I've been on the phone several times with people when their children are coming out of surgeries, just as a parent, and I hear all the beeping and stuff. And yeah, a lot of that is triggering, and I will have to sometimes kind of hang up or take myself out of that situation. But as much as I can be there for you, I want to hear those successes so much. I don't ever want to have anybody shy away from that, because it's so important that we have those and we can share those and embrace them. But want to
That's
hear.
awesome. And I thank you for that, because I know it's not easy, and I think, sometimes, even if it's subconsciously, as a mom to a survivor, I am very conscious of the words I say. I have to be honest, like even like school, whatever. Every September, I never share pictures of my kids in September because I feel like I don't want to break the hearts of my friends who have lost kids. And I don't, like, I never do that. And I'm always so conscious, even Mother's Day, on Father's Day, I'll post something about bereaved moms and dads. I won't even say Happy Mother's Day. Like, I feel that, like, in my heart. So thank you for, saying that, you care about the wins, because I don't really celebrate the wins like that anymore. And I'm not public about it like that either, because I am so conscious of how many of my friends have lost children. And I know it hurts, and I'm thankful for every single day, that we get here on earth. And I'm thankful for, every single day that I get that the four of us are together and alive, and enjoying life or enduring hardships together, like, you're thankful for it all after, almost losing your child. But you know I'm also thankful for you for sharing that perspective, because I know it's something that I am very, very conscious of. So, it's nice to hear that you do, celebrate the wins too, because I think I think a lot of us, like survivor parents, we don't celebrate the wins in public because of that, because we are so conscious, because we love our friends so much, and we don't ever want it to feel like, you know, an in your face kind of thing. So we have some community, I'll tell you. We really do. And I'm thankful for it, because I think that, to care about a human being in that way on your aspect, right? Um, to be able to still celebrate the wins. And I guess on my aspect, to care about someone so much that you're not celebrating the wins so loudly because you care about a human being so much. I think that we've learned some good life lessons, huh? In
Mhm.
through our trials, right? And hardships. And I think that is something that is I guess a positive, if you want to say that, of childhood cancer. And I'll speak for myself because I don't know your pain and I don't want to know your pain personally. I'll be very honest and transparent about that. I hope I never have to feel that pain. But I do feel like I live life much differently than I would um prior to diagnosis now. And I do care more for others and others' feelings, and others' outcome. And I do, like, really feel that life is a privilege and every day is a gift. And life is much different. I'm sure you feel like that too, in a sense, right? Like, it's almost like, I don't know, life magnified in a sense. I feel like your eyes have been open, I think, from seeing and being, like, I don't think anybody could really, like, know the pain and the, like, I don't know, like, the level of, I don't even know the word, the level of heartbreak, I guess, or heartache that, you're, like, forced to endure as your child is suffering. And I think through that pain, it makes you appreciate life so much more somehow. I don't know. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, and I've kind of always said it that if you ever have an opportunity, if you're not part of this community, if you ever had an opportunity to spend 5 minutes alone, to speak to one of these children, just have them talk to you that are going through this battle. They will change your perspective on life. And a lot of that comes from the world today is crazy. Okay. Everybody's upset
Crazy.
about something and
Yeah.
whatever it is. And most of it is all tiny, stupid, insignificant stuff that we all still get mad about it. Right. And you have to look at it from these child's eyes, because the one thing I took away, our neurosurgeon in the very beginning said the reason that I am a pediatric neurosurgeon, because I want to protect the innocence of these children. And that stuck with me, because these kids are innocent. Their hearts are pure and genuine. They don't have any hate in their heart. They don't have any reason to believe anything other than this sucks, but you know what? I'm going to smile through it because I'm a kid and that's what I do and I don't know anything otherwise. And that's the difference. And that's when you see that perspective and you are, your child is diagnosed and you're looking at it through their eyes and you're going through it as a parent, you come out on the other side looking at it and saying, why did I ever get angry or mad about all this stuff or waste my time getting upset with things? Because life is too short to be so angry and so mad or so worried about. Let's just focus on today. Let's get to tomorrow and worry about yesterday and just kind of think about how we can move forward. And so, yeah, your perspective changes, your eyes open, you look at things way differently. And I say that, we lost our daughter, and I think that every single year it gets harder because I'm watching my other two children grow up and accomplish things that she will never accomplish. And I remember sitting in my daughter's freshman year in high school. She's singing in the choir at graduation for that year, and I'm sitting on the bleachers at that point later in my mind thinking, JC's never going to accomplish this. She's never going to walk down the aisle with her cap and gown. She's never going to do that. And that broke me as I'm trying to kind of watch the successes of my other daughters graduating high school, driving a car, getting a job, but missing out on a whole piece of our family there that's not doing that. And so many people getting so worked up or worried about little things. And I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, but you're so lucky because you're
Right.
here, your kids are here. And what do you have to be so upset about? Because really, I've always said, my children are my greatest achievement in this life. I
Amen.
will
Yeah,
never
me too.
achieve anything greater. And they're our greatest asset, which essentially, if anybody's ever delved into it, that's why gold is the color, because it's the most precious thing. And that's the reason that we fight so hard, because without that, we have no future, we have no moving forward, we have no anything. And so nothing matters, not road rage, not politics, not any of that stuff. It's just you got to live every day to the fullest and really take a page out of how these kids live their life. Because while I don't believe that the commercials really give a true insight to what childhood cancer is, I will say the one thing that really is true is they have smiles on their faces because they're so innocent, and they're worried about you. They're worried about you as a parent. Are you okay? They're not worried about themselves. They're worried about you. The morning that our daughter passed and she was having trouble breathing, and I told my wife, I said, go get the girls, because I think this is it. And you have that feeling as a parent. And I looked at JC in the eyes. I said, are you okay? She looked at me. She shook her head, yes. And then she went into that sleep that we all know too well that she doesn't wake up from. But she looked at me and said, she's okay, in that moment, to make sure that I was okay. That's how incredible these kids are. And that's what I want to share with the world. And that's what I want everybody to hear, is that this podcast, calling it the Childhood Cancer Perspective, was that reality from my point of view, but also a child's point of view, and showing you the reality of pediatric cancer, the reality of a diagnosis, the reality of signing paperwork at 4 a.m. on the back of a tissue box because that's all the doctor had in an emergency, the reality of getting a list of drugs and treatments that they're going to give you, but 27 pages attached to the back of that of the side effects that could happen, the very last one being death. But in your signing paperwork or signing a DNR for your child because you think that's the best and most just thing for them. There's so much that goes into this, and that's what this gives me the ability to do, but also to really connect with so many people. And I'm grateful for that, because the people that I have met in this community are the truest people in the world and the greatest friends that I'll call family every single day, because they've
I'm with
never
you
turned
on
their
that for
back on
sure.
me. Yeah,
I'm with you to
it's
that. Yeah, for sure.
truly
I couldn't agree
100%.
more. I couldn't agree more on that. Something else that you had brought up earlier was, like losing friends, I guess, even family, like some of our own family members, it was too much for them to handle, right? They, stopped coming around, and, after 6 months, 6 months, it's like, oh, he's not better yet. For us, it was literally 5.5 years. So I guess it got old for people, and it was just too much for people to handle. But yeah, we do have a special community. And I am so thankful for that, really, because I know, there are so many people that I can count on in this community. And that has been such a blessing, to know that there are other people that have endured the same that you have, because you know, the general public does not know the reality. I don't even think if we stayed on this for 12 hours, we could explain the reality, right? I mean, my
Right.
gosh. But I'm glad that you're doing this. And I'm glad that you are shedding light and truth and letting others share their stories, because, as I think we keep saying, as difficult and as devastating as it is, it should be an encouragement, right? It should be an encouragement to people that have never been diagnosed, and their children have never been diagnosed, and to see that there is so much more to life, and don't sweat the small stuff, right? I mean, my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, I mean, really, to think of it, like, nothing could phase me now. Like, nothing can phase me. And it's, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's good, because I'm probably the most laid back person that there is, right? It's like, something, I don't have a white carpet, but if I did and you spilled grape juice on the white carpet or wine on the white carpet, I wouldn't even care. Like, to me, it doesn't even matter. I'm like, whatever, we can replace it. Like, if it's replaceable, it doesn't even matter to me. Cracked windshield, rock hits the windshield when you're driving down the road and the windshield cracks and you have to replace it. It's like, so what? Like, okay. Like, other people it may ruin their day. To me, it's like, okay, let me call, whoever, Safelite, like, it really, nothing phases me as long as we're healthy and, like, living. To me, like, nothing phases me. And I guess, I don't know if that's good or bad. I was just thinking in another sense, when it's natural, when death is natural, that's another thing that doesn't really phase me so much anymore either. And I think, some of my own family members might think it's strange or callous or something, but I'm like, no, like, let's say, whatever, an older aunt dies, am I don't even know. It might sound terrible, because I feel like I don't even know if I'm really sad. I'm not to say sad, but it's just a different perspective. Like, that was the natural order of things. So you kind of expect it, and you're like, well, okay, they're, 92. They lived a wonderful life. They were loved. They had family. They had grandchildren and great grandchildren. And, I'll miss them, but this is the way it's supposed to be. I think, like, when you come from our world and things are so out of the natural order, you know, I think, like I said, certain things don't really phase you anymore, and I guess it's not that I'm not sad, because, my father-in-law passed away, and, during COVID, he was 73, and, he had Lewy body's dementia, but he wound up dying from COVID. And of course, I was devastated, but, and I wish I had more time, and I miss him every single day. But I also, again, had the reality and perspective of, this is the natural order of things, So, and I don't know, maybe that's weird. People might listen and be like, oh my gosh, that's so weird. But, she's saying, but I think it's more, you accept things more, because I think there is a lot of death in our community, and it's like, you're facing it every day, or you're helping someone, you know, work through grief, or you're just coming alongside someone to care for them while they're, in the first stages of it, or sitting with a friend, or going to be with a friend sitting at the bedside of their child who's dying, because that's what they've asked you to do. And, you know, when you see it from that perspective, you really realize that literally every year is a privilege that we're given, right? Like, I don't know. I know some people are depressed about their birthdays, and I'm like, what? I'm like, no, I'm thankful. I don't care. I'm thankful for every year I get, and I think that's a different perspective too, right? You really realize, that we're not in control, right? That, every day is not, you know, I guess you just don't take anything for granted, right? I mean,
Right.
that's how I feel anyway, you know. And I don't know if you call that callous, or if you just feel like, you know, talking about the natural order of things, or if your eyes are just open to life in a different perspective. I don't know. I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of it lines up with what we would call societal norms, and the fact that we are not supposed to bury our kids. Like, that's not supposed to happen. They're supposed to take care of us, put us in a moderately priced home when we get a little bit ornery, and that's supposed to be the order of what we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to we're not supposed to sign DNRs for our kids. We're not supposed to wonder how long they're gonna. We're not supposed to. That's not the way that things are supposed to be. And so a lot of that comes to, it's not. I don't think it's weird. I think what it you look at it and say, if a child passes, you lose 70 plus years of life and
That's
future
right.
and career and marriage and kids and all that stuff that you're going to lose. And if someone that has lived, like my grandfather passed when he was 95. I mean, he lived a long life, and my aunt was younger, but I mean, they lived and they had an opportunity to grow up. And I think the biggest thing for me is they had an opportunity to make mistakes and do stupid things that we've all done as kids and adults, and make mistakes that honestly a lot of times can lead to the types of diagnoses that our kids are getting without ever having the opportunity. Children that are diagnosed with liver cancer, they're not out drinking. But children that are diagnosed with brain cancer, I'm sorry but it's shitty luck. There's
It
no rhyme
is.
or reason to it.
There
We
is.
don't understand it. And the thing is that there are things that you can do, or lung cancer or things like that. There's things that you can do to give yourself a better chance of developing cancer based on your life choices. And not all the time, but these kids, they're not doing anything to increase those chances. It just happens. There's no rhyme or
Right.
reason. There's no understanding. And so I think that's what a lot of the difference is when you're looking at, how the norms are, or how you feel, later on and things like that. Like, I don't want to sound terrible, but my sympathy level for things like that for a lot is kind of lower now, knowing what my daughter went through, and so many kids diagnosed with this disease, and so many kids that are going through it, and thinking they literally woke up one day and this diagnosis came down, and there was nothing that led to it happening. It just happened. They didn't
Right.
they didn't go through a life of doing XYZ and creating a perfect storm for these things to happen. Or there's people that just don't care, and they live their life and treat their body like amusement parks, and nothing bad ever happens. And you wonder why. What is it about what happened to our child or your son that caused that? Is there something? And as parents, we always wonder, what did we do wrong? Is there something that we did? Did we not do something? I know that when we were in the hospital in the very beginning, they asked, do you want to do a genetic test to kind of see if this is a predisposition? And my first question was, will this genetic test point to my wife or I? And they said, and at that point they said no. I said, because I don't want it to come back that it's me, and then deep down, even though it's not going to be said, my wife has a resentment for me for the rest of our life, because it's like,
Right.
you brought this on,
Right.
and it's like decisions like that. It makes it difficult because there's just, I don't know. This is the biggest, I think, one of the biggest issues, if not the biggest issue within this community or within childhood cancer in general, is that we just don't know. We just don't understand what causes 99% of it. There's some things, there's predispositions, there's types of, cell gene mutations and things like that that can make you predisposed. Things like, but otherwise, so much, and pretty much brain cancer is so misunderstood. There's no understanding. And to me, that's where the numbers are a little bit weird, because that's the number one killer within the pediatric cancer community, but the least funded and the least understood. And that drives me crazy, because it's like, I want to fix this, and I would think you'd want to fix the most rare things because they're the least understood. Let's get those under control. And, then we can kind of try to cut that off at the pass. But, and unfortunately, as parents, as advocates, as organizations, I think we carry 99% of the load when it comes to trying to figure this stuff out, as opposed to the place where the checks are getting written from in the government. We're carrying the load in that. And that's
Absolutely.
very off balance.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's something because, a lot of times I'll hear people say, like, oh, there'll never be a cure for cancer. I don't believe that, honestly. I believe as long as there's people like you and me, parents that love their children, there will be. There will be because, and I've seen it literally over the last 16 years. We fund research, that's part of what we do at Arms Wide Open. And we've done that literally for the last 16 years. We have family support, bereavement retreats, we have survivor support. We do a lot of different things. And the research, I feel, has predominantly been left up to family run foundations like ourselves, right? And, I'll give you an example, as far as for neuroblastoma, for my son's cancer. When he was first diagnosed, we were at a local hospital first. Then he wound up relapsing, so we transferred into to Memorial Sloan Kettering. We were trying to keep things normal for my daughter because she was young. She was 6.5 at the time. And yeah, so but that didn't last too long. So PS anyway, we transferred care, and there were a bunch of us, a bunch of different families, and we all came together, and the families had asked the doctors, like, what do you need? And they were like, funding. And so we all started to raise money, and we all pooled our money together. And over years, we wound up fully funding a humanized antibody and the anti-neuroblastoma vaccine, right, at Memorial Sloan Kettering. And the survival rate for Billy when he was first diagnosed, as I said, was 30%. Today, for someone who's diagnosed with his same diagnosis, stage 4 neuroblastoma, the survival rate is now almost 70%. So, that is not because of the government. That is because, parents of children with neuroblastoma who love their children came together to raise funds